So video games are pretty cool, right? I mean, the 37 million people playing on Steam seem to think so. Man, I sure wish I had a good excuse to yap about them for, like, I don't know, school or something. Huh. So with more and more games being made and released every single day... Oh wow, that's actually quite a lot. Well anyway, with so many people consuming video games, each day the question arises, do video games belong with other traditional art forms and literature? It's a good question, and one I will try to answer in this video. So before we go and decide whether or not video games are literature, we have to decide what makes anything literature in the first place. I mean, what is literature, anyway? For the purpose of this video not being 3 hours long and me retaining the little sanity I have left, I'll be judging these on 5 categories. If the game has all 5, it's literature. I'm going to look at games that I specifically think count as literature for this. However, do keep in mind, though, that I don't consider all video games to be literature. So these are just some of my favorite games that I think definitely count as literature, and I'm going to look at what their strong suits are and what literary elements I think they embody the most. Narrative structure. If a game doesn't have a narrative structure, then I'd be impressed, to be honest. To summarize, narrative structure is how a story is organized and unfolds over time. So basically, any game with passage of time has narrative structure. If you really want to play a game without narrative structure, go play Tetris or something. Even Miss Pac-Man has narrative structure. Tone. Tone is basically how the author of a book conveys meaning by using the power of words. In video games, tone can be the way characters talk, the atmosphere, the soundtrack, or even the way levels are designed. I think that's pretty straightforward, so I'm going to move on to the next one now. Theme. Messages and lessons told by a story are themes. Basically, you're simple, friendship is cool, don't be mean, don't with cats. Friendship is cool, don't with cats. See? Simple. Character development. Character development is the process by which a character grows, changes, or reveals complexity. Wow, that's beautiful. Symbolism. This one is tricky. Symbolism is basically when an object or idea or moment or image represents something else. Got that? No, me neither. So for an example, chains might represent imprisonment. Therefore, chains are symbolic of imprisonment. Another example of symbolism is the 94 hours I have in Hollow Knight Silksong. This symbolizes my lack of a life. Okay, so now to the part where we actually do the stuff we were here for, and it's only been 3.5 minutes. Oh god. Hollow Knight is a game released in 2017 by a small indie studio called Team Cherry, located in Adelaide, Australia. Of course the game's about bugs, it's Australia, I mean, like, come on guys. And this game is very, very cool. The second you step into this world, it's immediate that the atmosphere and the tone and the writing and the story is just out of this world. And so that is why I have selected it to represent tone in video games. Hollow Knight's story is complicated. You show up in an old abandoned kingdom, go fight a bunch of scary bugs, and go beat a sun god. Yeah, it doesn't sound like literature, doesn't sound like tone, but just look at the art, man. Listen to that music, and the soundtrack is incredible, trust me. Listen to the sound effects, look at all those particle effects. And, I mean, you saw the cutscene I just showed you. That is atmospheric. And from the writing to the area design, the entire game has this moody, somber feel that just gives it so much personality and life and character. and I think it's absolutely deserving of the spot I gave it, and if I could choose any other game, I wouldn't, because Hollow Knight is peak. Also, now this is a ranking video, apparently. S tier. So, for themes, I had a bit of trouble selecting this. I mean, I could just go with Hollow Knight again, obviously. So, Celeste is this really cool game about climbing a mountain, but you play as a depressed girl. Now, this game might actually sound stupid, but it actually has some pretty interesting themes about anxiety, blah 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 blah, you've heard it before. Basically, the mountain symbolizes... We should do this for symbolism. No, we shouldn't. Wait, never mind, because we want Deltarune for symbolism, so yeah. Anywho, themes. So there's a lot of themes in Celeste. I would say the main one is, like, anxiety or something. To be honest, I couldn't find any really good theme games, but, like, I think Celeste really works well for it. I don't think it's the prime example. Like, Hollow Knight is perfect for tone. Yeah, look at me talking about Hollow Knight again. But Celeste really isn't the best for themes, but it works good enough, so we're gonna go on to the next one, because the next one is actually peak. Expedition 33 is really, really cool. Basically, there's this crazy god called the Paintress, and every year she paints a number counting down from, like, I don't know, 100 or something, and everyone who is of the age of the number she paints dies. So every year, a hopeless expedition of people that are gonna die next year go out and try to kill the Paintress to save humanity, because once it hits 0, you know, everyone just dies. Probably die before then because babies. But, like, you know. So the character development in Expedition 33 is phenomenal. You got a bunch of cool stuff, and to prevent spoilers, because I would never spoil this game, Gustav dies! But yeah, this game does the insane move of killing off one of the main characters. In fact, I would go as far to call him the main character. And seeing the way the party members cope with the death of one of their dearest friends is unbelievably well written. You got a girl that goes and cries on a cliff, and then you have, like, another person that's, like, making jokes at the campfire to try to alleviate tension. So it's cool seeing the coping mechanisms that all these people bring up. And the way these characters are written makes them feel genuinely real and makes me genuinely care about them, enough that I think Expedition 33 certainly deserves the spot as character development in this list. What? A ranking? I'll give it S tier. Hey, remember that funny game that released in, like, 2015 that blew up the entire internet? I think it was called, like, Understory or something. Apparently there's a sequel to that game, and it's peak. So yeah, the game's called Deltarune, and I might have, like, 400 hours in it. Because it's kind of complicated, I'm gonna try to summarize Deltarune's story really quickly. So the entire plot is about what would happen if it got darker than dark. So basically, if you think about it, when it gets really dark in a room, stuff kind of looks different, right? Chairs can look like, I don't know, a monster or something, you know, that typical fear of the dark thing. The game looks at what happens if it gets darker than dark, and you literally can't make anything of nothing, so your brain starts to make things up. And you start seeing things again. It turns everything into, like, this fantastical journey in this fantastical world that these characters go into. And there's a bunch of crazy stuff that goes on outside of that, but that's the basic premise that's important for what I'm about to talk about. So yeah, the stuff I was going to talk about. The characters that appear in these so-called dark worlds are all symbolic of lots of stuff, because they're based off of the objects that were in the room a dark world were created in. And another really excellent example of symbolism in Deltarune is the soul, which is only an example of symbolism that can really exist inside of a video game and is excellent use of the medium, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about symbolism. The soul symbolizes the player's control over the world and characters of Deltarune, as it is pretty much the thing that controls the characters' lives and forces them to either do good things or evil things. And it's in these ways that Deltarune makes itself one of the better examples of symbolism in games, with all of the very interesting lore and whatnot. And there's so much more to talk about with the symbolism in this game. For an example, Chris's voice representing good times before the story started, or how the fountains represent kind of the hopes and dreams of the characters. But I don't have time to talk about that, and it would require a lot more explaining, so I'm gonna stop the Deltarune section. S tier. Oh yeah, and I forgot to rank Celeste. S tier. And now for the question you've all been asking yourself, hopefully if I did a good job. Are video games literature? In my opinion, yes and no. I mean, look at Tetris. Is that literature? Do you see literature in the funny block game that is Minecraft? No, me neither. However, look at Hollow Knight, look at Celeste, look at Expedition 33, and look at Deltarune. Look at those games and tell me those aren't literature. But yeah, in conclusion, the argument that I have been trying to make this whole video is that literature can be in a lot of different mediums. If it's in movies, books, TV shows, even social media posts, whatever. But specifically, video games. They can be an excellent medium for using literature to a purpose that it hasn't really been used ever. When you have a player that is interacting with the story and the world, you can do some really cool stuff in the story that just can't be done in any other medium. And so that is my main argument for why I think video games can be literature and should be. Plot twist. Was this video literature? Well, let's look. Narrative structure? I think it has a narrative structure. I mean, we're clearly setting a timeline of events. I mean, that's in, like, even the most basic of essays. What's after narrative? Oh, yeah, tone. Yeah, I think there's tone. It's an idiot talking about video games, so yeah, we got tone. Themes. The theme is that video games are literature, or at least can be. Character development. I slowly lose my insanity, so that's character development, right, guys? And symbolism. The 94 hours in Hollow Knight Silksong.